All right. So again, thanks everyone for joining me this morning for our information session on the Wisconsin and Washington, D.C. program. So we'll go ahead and get started with some introductions. My name is Joanna Poinsett, and I am the program advisor for the Wisconsin-Washington, D.C. program. And I am based here in Madison in our office in the Red Gym. And so I'm really kind of the advisor for students as they are, deciding if they want to do this program and have questions about it. So I provide prospective student advising. I oversee and kind of manage our application process for students. And then I'll work with students kind of up to the point as they start to prepare for the program and get on site. We'll talk a little bit about our structure of the program and our staff there in Washington, D.C. But the last thing I'll work with students on is kind of as they return back to campus or next steps, I help with the grading credit processing to make sure all the work that you do is reported back to your UW-Madison records. So I'm really happy today to be joined by, I think right now we just have our two alum joining. We have another one who may pop in here, but I'll go ahead and let Cole and Sam, two of our program alums, introduce themselves really quick.
Hi, yeah, I'm Cole. I did the program in spring. I am going to be a senior this upcoming year, and I majored in political science and economics.
I'm Sam. I also did the program with Cole in the spring, and I'm majoring in political science and Spanish.
All right. Yeah, so thanks to them both. And then Sarah is another program alum. She may or may not be able to join us because she's actually going to be working with Mandela Barnes's Senate campaign, and so I know her work schedule is a bit busy, so if she can join, she also participated in the spring 2022 program. So Cole and Sam will share a little bit about themselves and their time on the program in a few minutes here. But first, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the program. So to get started, I thought it would be helpful to go over some basics of a study away program. So essentially, a study away program is the same as a study abroad program without the travel to another country. Students will still apply to the UW Study Abroad office. They're still enrolled as a full-time student at UW-Madison while on the program, and the work that is completed during the program is still posted to students' UW-Madison transcript. Each course completed on the program is reported with a UW-Madison course equivalent, and the credit is considered in residence. The grades earned on the program will count towards your overall GPA. So then before we go into the specifics of the program, I thought it could be helpful to explain why we chose Washington, D.C. as the site of kind of one of our first domestic study away programs. So obviously for those interested in government, the heart of the federal government is located on Capitol Hill, and there are many federal agencies that are headquartered in D.C. But beyond that, Washington, D.C. is home to over 4,000 think tanks, over 12,000 nonprofit organizations, and NGOs, and the Smithsonian Institution. So with so much going on in DC, students from many different majors are usually able to find an internship opportunity that fits their interests. Additionally, we have a great network of alumni based in the DC, Maryland, and Virginia area. And so that's, alumni that have done the program, but also just UW-Madison alums that kind of span the years that they've attended the institution. The DC Alumni chapter is very active, and they do engage with our program in different ways as guest speakers, mentors, internship hosts. I think they've held like a few different events, like sporting events and things. So it's really great to be able to connect our Badgers with kind of the Badgers based in DC. So now as we move into talking about the program, I wanted to highlight our program objectives. First and foremost, Wisconsin and Washington is an academic program. Your internship alone does not earn credit. That's kind of a UW-Madison rule. Academic credit has to be earned through the corresponding academic component that you'll do in the professional development course. Along with that course, you'll have two other special topics courses for semester students. We'll touch more on the academic structure in the next slide, but what I really want to emphasize is that our goal is to provide engaging coursework, speakers, and assignments that help you connect your classroom learning to the professional world. Professional development is also a big part of the program. I think something that is a bit unique to this program and kind of amongst our study abroad opportunities, but also just amongst opportunities here at UW-Madison. You'll be able to get certain skills and experience through the internship, but then the professional development course that you take alongside of it allows you to reflect on those skills and to really start to demonstrate and articulate your goals and interests. So for example, one of the first assignments that we have students do for that course is to do a strengths quest assessment so that they can kind of find their top 5 strengths and then kind of reflect on that and have that as they move forward in the semester. So you'll be able to learn more about other fields outside of your internship as well through course discussions, guest speakers, events, and assignments. And then lastly, we also just aim to foster opportunities for students to create professional relationships and networks that they can continue to build upon after the program ends. So courses and program events will bring in alumni, high-level officials, professionals from a range of backgrounds and experiences to speak with the students about what they do, but also, again, get those connections out there so that students can follow up with further questions as they need. Participants on the program are also matched with an alumni mentor with whom they meet for conversations and questions. So the program begins with a prep course that students are asked to complete the semester before they participate on the program. This prep course is actually done through Canvas and it's not for credit. So I know sometimes students will be concerned about having to, enroll in an additional course the semester before they do the program. So you won't have to enroll. You'll be invited to join the Canvas course after acceptance into the program. And so while it's not for credit, it is significant commitment as is the internship search. And it kind of goes hand in hand to really help students begin that process and prepare for the program. While on the program, students will complete an internship based in Washington, D.C. for about 30 hours a week. It will range a little bit depending on semester or summer, just typically with summer internships could be a bit longer. For the semester program, so for fall and spring programs, students will take 3 4-credit courses. So currently we have all students taking a professional development course, along with a course on foreign policy and then a domestic politics focused course. So the program director, Cynthia Williams, leads the professional development course. And then our foreign policy course is taught by Donald Planty, who is the former ambassador for Guatemala. And the domestic focus course has been taught by a visiting lecturer. So recently we've had Ed Cohen teaching the fall course about Congress, and Sam Cornell has been teaching the spring course about presidential campaigns. Ed was the vice president for government industry relations for Honda North America, and Sam is a UW-Madison alum and the executive director of DNC. So they're bringing in really great and relevant experience to that domestic policy course. So earning 12 credits during the semester that you are in DC is likely not something students can complete by doing an internship alone outside of the program. So it's something we definitely want to highlight as a benefit to doing this program. So that's the semester kind of outlining structure. We also have the summer program, and for that program, students will only take the professional development course that's taught by Cynthia. And that will be for 3 credits. But again, they're doing typically a little bit extra time in their internship. So definitely busy, definitely have work to be done and a lot of skills that they're gaining along with that. All right, so I know one question a lot of students will have as they're kind of thinking about this program as they are applying and kind of moving forward is how do we find an internship? So as we noted, we do have a prep course that is kind of there to help guide students through that process of applying for an internship. Really, it kind of starts with asking students to identify their interests, the types of organizations that they're interested in working for. So definitely, if you are interested in this program, take a look at our website to find examples of kind of the past internships students have done. Do some research in all the different opportunities in DC. There's definitely more out there than what our past students have done. And I would recommend just kind of getting a sense for what really are you interested in? What type of work would you like to do? What type of office would you like to be in? Kind of then after you've identified some of those things, we'll move through resume review, guides for writing cover letters, tips for interviewing, and just presenting yourself in a professional manner. And so we work closely with various career offices on campus to try and kind of borrow a lot of the great content that they already have and harness it for the students on this program to use as they prepare different applications and things. Ultimately, we do consider this to be a student-led process. So students are the ones responsible for finding, applying to, and securing an internship. We cannot guarantee internships, but we can help to connect students to possible opportunities. So with that, we have connections in DC from our, like we said, alumni who are internship hosts, past program participants who are working in various places, places where we've had students intern before, we are connected to those hosts. And then also just, our instructors being professionals in various fields. Cynthia, as the program director, have various connections. And so we can draw on those as we need, but those aren't always enough. There is a lot of opportunities out there and they don't always fit with students' interests. So again, we'll pass along those opportunities as we hear about them, but there is more out there and we always encourage students to, take the initiative and to definitely put as many applications out as they can. One thing I know, another question that students have asked in prospective advising and with the application process is, do I need to have secured an internship in order to be accepted into the program? And so the answer to that is no. It can, again, definitely help in the application process if you already have an idea of kind of the potential areas or organizations that interest you, but you don't need a formal internship offer or anything like that at the time you apply. And actually, if you do have one, that's great, but we'll definitely want you to run that past our program director, as ultimately they will be kind of needing to approve all internships. So lastly, with the internship search, we definitely recommend students check out a number of campus resources that are available to help in the career search process. So there's the general offices for schools and colleges like SuccessWorks, which serves LNS students. But then you might also know that some departments, majors, and certificates have their own career-focused advisor. So again, these career specialists here on campus are just really great resources for reviewing your resumes and cover letters, helping for you to prep with your interviews. And then they also potentially know of other internship opportunities that they can point you towards. So we're very grateful for our campus partners. And so this slide just shows some of the past internship sites for our program participants, kind of the different areas, again, that you might want to be thinking and identifying that you're interested in, as well as some kind of specific organizations that students have worked with. So as you can see, it spans across a number of different areas from congressional offices and party organizations, but also nonprofits and advocacy work. We've had students with science backgrounds come and work with different, kind of research-based organizations. We've had students interested in kind of the nonprofit field and social work, psychology, communications. So there really is so much opportunity out there. And just because a past student hasn't done it doesn't mean it's not an available, an opportunity that you can find. Definitely encourage students to go beyond, again, the list that we do have, although they are, again, a great starting point just for identifying even what types of organizations do exist and to familiarize yourself with the different areas of internships that you'll find. All right, so now hopefully you are very interested in applying for this program. And so if you are, we want to go over how to apply. The eligibility requirements for the program are listed on our program page on our website, and I've also included them on the screen. So the program is open to students from all majors. Students should have junior or senior standing, although we know for some second-year students, you may have higher standing based on credit amount. So kind of to clarify that, we typically give preference to students in their third or fourth year. Obviously, with the summer program, though, we will typically consider some students who maybe have just finished their second year. Students should also have at least a 3.0 cumulative GPA and be in good academic and disciplinary standing. If you have any questions about that eligibility, definitely reach out to me and let me know. We might be able to be flexible depending on your situation. So here's a resource again for questions like that as those come up. The application can be done entirely online through our website. And as part of the application, you'll be asked to answer some questions speaking to your interest in the program, your internship preferences, and academic and career goals. We'll also ask you to include an updated copy of your resume, an example, and a letter of recommendation. And then after the initial review, selected students will be invited to interview. So we typically try to hold interviews about a week or two after the application deadline, and then make those final acceptance decisions a few days after the interviews. We know that students, again, especially for the summer program, but even for semester, they need to do some planning ahead of time. So we do want to try and get back to students as timely as possible. So another question that students often have about the application process is, how competitive is it? And that really will depend on the number of students that we have apply. So I can't unfortunately give, a clear answer, but I will say that the summer program tends to be the term when we have the highest number of applicants. So it can be competitive in terms of a place on the program. I also like to note that summer is probably the most competitive time. I would actually say definitely the most competitive time for internship applications in DC. You have a number of students coming from all parts of the country who maybe if they don't have a program like this in the semester, now have the opportunity to intern in DC in the summer. So it is a competitive time. That's not to scare students away, especially if that's really the only time this program will work for you. But just to give you a heads up for that, and also to say, if you can make this work for the semester, I think there's a lot of great benefits to doing the semester in DC. So again, if you are interested in applying, the spring 2023, summer 2023, and fall 2023 applications are all open now. The spring program has an application deadline of September 23rd. I think that's about a month away. So if you're interested in participating on the program during that term, definitely be sure to complete your application by that date. And again, if you have any questions about that, I am happy to help. All right, so again, as you're considering if this program is the right fit for you, we know that students definitely have to consider costs and funding for programs is part of their selection process. So the cost sheets for each duration of the program can be found online on our program page. And so then when you're looking at the cost sheet that is online, you'll notice 3 different sections. So there's the program fee section, the estimated additional costs, and the cost of attendance. The program fee is what you will be billed for the program instead of UW-Madison tuition for the term. And the fee includes academic expenses, administrative costs, insurance, orientation costs, events, excursions, and housing, which is a big piece. So basically what it's covering is the cost for us to run the program. The estimated additional expenses that you'll find on the cost sheet are what we would anticipate that you might spend out of pocket on things such as airfare, food, transportation in DC, etc. Those are things that are not covered by the program fee. So we base these figures on information that we gather from past students, but they are just estimates, and so they will vary a bit based on students' personal spending habits. The cost of attendance, that is the final figure you'll see on that cost sheet, is then the program fee plus the estimated additional expense. And this number can be important for understanding the total cost of the program, but it's also used for things like scholarship and financial aid. So we do advise students to review the cost sheet in its entirety, as you'll also find other important information about policies and financial resources on there. So it's important to read through and understand the cancellation policies, as those will take effect after students confirm their participation on the program. So the first payment that students do make is a $300 deposit, usually ask for that about 2 weeks after acceptance into the program. So once that confirmation deposit is in, that's when those other fees and policies will start to take effect. So definitely be sure to review that. Again, if you have questions about it, I'm a great resource for that. And then we do have some information and links to connect students with opportunities to help fund their time on the program, including resources on financial aid, scholarships through our office, and then other offices on campus, and tips for fundraising. So we do have scholarships set aside specific for students studying abroad on a study away program. And since Wisconsin-Washington is our largest study away program, we definitely encourage students to apply to the scholarships through our office. The application for those is done through the Wisconsin Scholarship Hub, or WISH. And so those that application is done separately from your application to our office. So just be sure to keep an eye out for that. The deadlines are also a little different. But again, the information for that and to find those scholarships and deadlines is on our Study Abroad website. You can also use WISH just to search for other scholarships that might be offered on campus, because we know that some campus units and departments have opportunities for scholarships for students completing internships. So for example, we know the poli-sci department, I think journalism, there's a few other departments that have scholarships that are available for students doing an internship. And so because you'll be doing an internship on the program, you should be eligible. So we definitely encourage you to keep an eye out for those, to apply for those, and then, reach out to the contacts for those if you do have any questions. All right, so like I mentioned, housing is provided through the program, and the cost of that is included in that program fee. So we are kind of in the process right now of looking at a few different housing providers. We have been working with one called WISH, different from the Scholarship Hub. It's the Washington Intern Student Housing. Again, we are always kind of looking at, making sure our housing is affordable, accessible, and a good choice for students. So we're in the process of looking into that now, but definitely we'll be working with a provider in Washington, D.C. So usually with those providers, they have the different apartments and locations available, and then we, work with them. They run the maintenance and they run kind of the general operations of the building for our students. One thing we definitely do want to make sure when we are working with that partner, though, is that our students will be rooming with other UW-Madison students on the program. So definitely can say that. Similarly, we typically will keep students in the Capitol Hill area because that's where our classroom building is located, and it's a great location for students. So, we'll likely, regardless of kind of where we go with housing, look to keep students in the Capitol Hill area. And then with that, even if you're not interning on the Hill or, in a different area, you will get a Metro card as part of the program. And so that Metro card has unlimited rides so that you can kind of move throughout the city for your internship, for exploring the city, for food, for whatever you need. So again, you'll be able to explore the city no matter where the housing is located. But just to note again, it is provided, so you wouldn't have to go find housing on your own, which could be a huge relief for students. All right, so other things kind of to note about your time in DC. So again, I mentioned this earlier, but we do have some staff located on site in Washington, DC, who are there to support students. So I serve as the main campus-based contact for students on the program. And as I mentioned, I kind of advise prospective students about the program, oversee the application process. I'll work and help with the housing placements. Again, kind of work with students to help them get in contact with our on-site staff and kind of help with that transition into the program. But then really, once students are in DC, they're going to be working more closely with the staff who are based there, just because I can't do that. So we're in the process of hiring a program manager. And that person we're hoping to start, will start this fall, and they will manage the student affairs. They facilitate internships, they oversee program operations, including organizing orientation, professional development activities, networking opportunities, and then they also help with kind of the alumni mentor relationships, mentor matching. This person has also helped with things like securing museum tickets for our students, so that, especially for ones that might be harder to get, we want to make sure students have the opportunity to explore all the different educational and really cool opportunities in DC. And so this person will often kind of help create some of those opportunities for students and kind of point out things that they'd recommend. So again, this person we're hoping will be hired in the fall. And in the meantime, I'm kind of taking on some of the responsibilities along with Cynthia Williams, who is our program director. And so when Cynthia is not kind of teaching the professional development course and assisting students with their internship questions, she also works as the international policy advisor for the University of Wisconsin-Madison. So again, Cynthia will be teaching that course. She'll be kind of the main contact on site, at least for the interim. And then she also just kind of oversees the program more generally, make sure things are going well, and kind of is the main contact for academics and things like that. And so we also then have our ambassador in residence, Don Clancy, who I mentioned, teaches the course on foreign policy, and he's been involved with the program for a number of years. So it's really great to be able to have him for fall and spring. I think Cynthia also tries to bring him in to talk to the summer students. So, no matter what term you go, you'll likely have the chance to meet him and hear about his experience. He can also help connect students who are interested in more kind of international relations work with some opportunities in that. So then along with the professional staff in DC, students can also find support through their alumni mentors that I mentioned that they get matched with. So we do encourage students to meet with their mentors multiple times throughout the semester. I think it's used as kind of an assignment in the professional development course. And then we just recommend that they use them as a resource for information on career interests, personal goals, and life in DC. So you can really just, ask them a little bit more about how they got to where they are, any questions that you have that would help you. They're really there. They're excited to work with our students in this role. They choose to do this. So I think it's a really great opportunity for our students on this program. You'll also be able to create those connections with other UW-Madison students who form the cohort of your program. So you'll be living together, you'll be taking your classes together. So you'll really get a chance to make those connections with students that you maybe have not had a chance to connect with on campus. That being said, you won't spend all of your time with them. You'll be at your internship site, so you'll get to meet people through there. And then also, just like I said, different guest speakers and things like that are coming in to talk to the classes. And I know I've seen Cynthia sending, the contact information for those guest speakers to students so that they can follow up as needed. And then lastly, just to note, our IAP study abroad office does remain available for students to contact, especially regarding matters of health and safety. So while students are in DC, the program manager is really going to be the kind of go-to emergency contact just because they're there. I'm also available should anything be needed, but our office also has an emergency phone that is staffed 24/7 by a member of UW-Madison study abroad staff. So students will have access to that phone number. And so if anything happens and the program manager can't be reached, that number is available. It may not be me answering, but it will be someone who can either connect you with me or connect you with the program manager or just help in whatever comes up when needed. Lastly, to note that students are all enrolled in CISI insurance during their time on the program as well. So with it being a domestic study away program, you may have insurance through, your family or other means that you may keep, but it's nice to have the additional CISI insurance. And that's been really helpful actually with COVID because they help cover some costs for quarantine or isolation and things. So it's definitely a resource that we do provide to students and we found has been used a bit more in recent times. All right, so with that, I've been talking a lot. I'm going to go ahead and let our alums talk. I don't think Sarah has had a chance to join, so I'm going to go ahead. I guess I'll keep talking. I will go ahead and just show her this is the information she sent me a bit, just to go over kind of what she shared. So, and then I'll let Cole go next. But Sarah Nels, you can see she's from Wisconsin, political science and public policy student. So Sarah was a legislative intern at the U.S. House of Representatives in the office of Congressman Chris Pappas. And she noted up there some of her general duties. So sorting through, responding to constituent mail. I think that's pretty common for the Hill internships, drafting letters on legislative asks and constituent requests, research on policy priorities, and then signing the congressman onto proposed legislation. So she noted a lot of constituent requests. Memorable moments, she said that dropping her first bill that she wrote and researched onto the House floor was a memorable moment for her. She said it was a great way to see the full legislative process, and it felt amazing to see her work on the congressman's desk and on our legislative agenda. And then lastly, I asked for her to share some advice, and she noted, don't be afraid to apply to this internship, to apply to internships or join the program, even if you've never had an experience like this before. As an intern and a student, you are there to learn, and don't let this discourage you from trying something new. So again, she couldn't join us because she'd actually kind of used her experience on the program to get a new opportunity with, a state legislator running for Senate. So that's really awesome. And we wish her luck with that. But she was kind enough to share some of her information, and I'm sure she'd be happy to talk to any students if they have questions. And then I will stop talking and let Cole share a little bit more about himself.
Yeah, so I did the program last spring. I'm from Stanley, Wisconsin, majoring in political science and economics, doing the certificate in public policy, which if you guys are poli-sci majors, I would recommend pursuing that as well in addition to this program, because a lot of the courses with the Wisconsin-Washington program apply towards that certificate. My internship when I was in DC was in the United States Senate with Senator Tammy Baldwin. It was a really, really awesome time. My duties when I was there was basically to provide some really entry-level administrative support to the legislative and policy teams. And basically, most of my role was to work in the mailroom, which is kind of just like the entry level when you're in a Hill office. That's kind of what you're going to be doing. So there's this software called IQ, which has all, if a constituent is calling or emailing or anything like that into a Senate office, then my responsibility as an intern and was to sort and code and help craft responses for incoming mail, email, and phone calls from constituents. So if a constituent was calling in concerned about what's going on with abortion or something like that, it would be, they'd be sending a letter. I would code that to a person who then would reply to them. And then in that role, there's some, as an intern, there's just the people just above you are helping you get involved in a lot of that stuff. So you get to see how the office works. A memorable moment when I was there, when the draft decision of Dobbs was leaked, we were right next to the Supreme Court because Wisconsin is so close and has a really great location. We're literally steps away from the Supreme Court, and the classroom building is also right on Capitol Hill, right next to the Supreme Court. So we were able to see the protest form and see super famous elected officials speak for the rallies right outside our classroom and apartment building. So literally walk into the classroom and leave, and then we see Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Elizabeth Warren and people like that just, you know, rallying the troops outside the Supreme Court, which is pretty cool. And yeah, the fence, we were like in the apartment, everybody has seen it on their phone, saw that the decision leaked and everything. And then within like an hour, they have like these big metal fences up to keep people away. So it was just a memorable moment knowing that you're living right in the middle of things. So my advice for people who are interested in this program, be really intentional about the application process. For me, I applied, really wanted to work with Senator Baldwin. That was the first internship I applied to. But then because of the timeline of how these things worked, I didn't hear back from them for like 2 or 3 months. So then I was worried that I wasn't going to get the internship. So I kept applying and I probably applied to like 40 internships, which was crazy and way too much. And I think that if I had just taken more time and been slower about things, like really tailored my cover letter to different organizations and put more time into it and cared more about the different places I was applying to, when I was just kind of chunking those things out and stuff, I probably would have done better. And even though I got the internship that I wanted to work for Senator Baldwin. That was like my number one thing I wanted to do. Had I been more intentional about it, I think that I would have had better results and seen some things happen more quickly. Reach out to UW Alumni through LinkedIn about open positions. That's another part about being intentional about it. I think that if I was like going backwards now and interested in this program, I would have looked for, there's like a DC Badgers LinkedIn group or something like that, and looked and seen what organizations are at. And if there's one at an organization I was interested in, I probably would have messaged them on LinkedIn and like, hey, are there any open internships? And then applied that way, because I think it's just a good way to get connected to those kinds of opportunities. Try to get out of the apartment as often as possible. We did not like staying in the apartment when we were in DC, and you're in DC for a short amount of time, relatively short amount of time. So go explore. Yeah. And take advantage of the time you have in DC. It's a really, really cool place. After the program, all I want to do is go back. So while you're in DC, just take advantage of every moment you got.
All right. Hi, I'm Sam. I'm from Middleton, Wisconsin. So basically a hometown kid in Madison. I'm majoring in political science and Spanish, and I have certificates in public policy and European studies. And I would definitely echo what Cole said about the public policy certificate, because I actually added that certificate after I did Wisconsin and Washington, because I realized that like 2 of the courses counted towards 2 out of the 4 courses for the public policy certificate were counted from Wisconsin and Washington. So that was really nice. I interned at a small nonprofit on the Hill called Jubilee USA Network. It's like a religious nonprofit. Well, it's the message is based in like the biblical notion of Jubilee, but really it's like a economic organization focused on international debt relief. So that's their main mission, getting debt relief for like poor and developing countries. Um, and so what I did there was mainly like office support and clerical type duties because really that's what us interns were. We were supporting the office manager just every day in the office. So we did a lot of like mailings and outreach, and then we worked in the database that they use to maintain their financials. And so we like went to the bank and deposited checks too. Then we did a little bit of like tracking for Jubilee's policy areas. Um, and then I think my favorite part was getting to attend online meetings with coalition partners. So Jubilee was a part of like a lot of groups of organizations that worked in their policy areas or areas that were connected. So the interns kind of just got to uh, go into those meetings, take some notes, not really participate, but just kind of witness what was happening. And then also another fun thing was getting to participate in the hiring process for the next cohort of interns. So that was kind of an interesting experience, getting to sit in on some interviews and review resumes. For my memorable moment, I picked kind of a fun thing that me and some people from the cohort did, just to kind of highlight the cool like friendship and camaraderie that you get from the program. So we went to see the National Symphony Orchestra at the Kennedy Center. I'm kind of a classical music nerd, so I had a really good time, and I was kind of spearheading the effort to get that group together. But after the concert, we hung out outside the Kennedy Center, which is like such a cool building, and we took pictures and hung out. So that was a memorable moment. But also, I mean, it was so hard to choose because, like Cole said, there was like just crazy things that happened when we were in DC, and we were right on the Capitol Hill. So you're right in the thick of it. And then just exploring DC, there were also just some amazing things that we saw. So it was really hard to pick for that memorable moment. And then for my advice, I would say that you need to apply early and apply to many internships because you never know where you're going to get an interview or be rejected. When I was applying to internships, I applied to a ton of like think tanks and organizations where it's really hard to get an internship. And I guess I kind of put all my eggs in one basket, and I got a lot of applications where I just never heard back. So I would say try to not put your eggs in one basket and apply to a few prestigious ones, of course, like shoot for the moon, but also diversify and apply to a lot of different things. I think I also didn't apply to enough internships. So maybe go for somewhere between where me and Cole did, because Cole applied to a ton of internships, and I might not have applied to as many. So apply with intention, like Cole said, but make sure you're putting yourself out there enough. But also don't be afraid to take an internship when you get an offer, because whatever it is, it's going to be worth it, because the other experiences that you'll have in DC will make it worth it, I think. Yeah.
All right, thank you so much. So I just have a few more things. We have one more kind of student experience slide, and then I'll do a few more wrap-ups, and then we'll have some time for questions. So Sam and Cole will stay on to help if you have any for them or any for me. If you want to start throwing them into like chat or Q&A, you can do that now. If you want to start thinking ahead. But I wanted to highlight again one more student. So Mia, just to give us kind of experience from a summer student, Mia couldn't attend today, but she did again want to share kind of her own experience. And so Mia's from South Bend, Indiana, which actually kind of is near and dear. This picture was near and dear to my heart because my grandparents lived there and I went to school there. So I was like, this is such a cool thing with her memorable experience. I thought was great. But getting ahead of myself, Mia's majors in psychology with a certificate in digital studies. So she worked as a budget and analytics intern at the Department of Transportation in the Secretary of Transportation's office. And she noted that she kind of helped build a new performance management system, doing administrative tasks in quantitative and qualitative reporting. She had daily projects, briefing documents, and meetings that she was asked to sit in. So she worked directly in the CFO's office, kind of helping with that. She noted the internship was very fast-paced, and that she was able to interface daily with business and finance government professionals that are working towards implementing the bipartisan infrastructure law across all department modes. So in her memorable moment, she mentioned that all the interns were able to sit down with Secretary Buttigieg and listen to him speak and answer their questions. And most of his answers he referred back to his time as being mayor of South Bend, which was her hometown. And so it was really special to hear how formative those years were to him. So again, I thought that was great because I had the connections there too. But even if you don't, I think it just can appreciate the kind of uniqueness of being able to talk directly with these kind of leaders. And so lastly, some advice that she had is to look early and look often for internships. So she noted, again, for summer especially, I think every college kid is looking for opportunities at the same time, and the recruiting process is competitive. If you decide to go to DC through the Wisconsin and Washington program, make sure to put that on your resume. It helps if you already have plans to travel to DC, and I was always asked about it in interviews. So again, we thank our alum for sharing their experience, those who could be here and those who sent in their slides. And so, obviously they, Sam and Cole probably speak to this more, but I wanted to highlight a little bit about some of the things our students do kind of after they've completed the program. And so obviously some will come back to UW-Madison to finish their degree, depending on where they're at. Others will graduate on the program, kind of having that be their last term. That is a possibility, especially, well, depending, I should say, on your school and college. Definitely check in with your academic advisor, but there are students who will do that. And so, definitely we have students that return to DC and kind of work, in various fields, sometimes in the places they interned, sometimes, finding positions through the connections that they made in DC. So we've noted some of those there. But then we've also had people who, don't return to DC. They kind of spread the skills and experiences that they've had elsewhere, in the US and in the world. And so we've had some applying to get masters in teaching, international affairs, public policy. We've had people going to law school. We've had past participants going on to the Peace Corps. And then we also have students who will kind of do the time in DC, and then on another semester or term here at UW-Madison, or even after, they'll go on to do a study abroad program, an internship abroad, or again, at post-graduation, they may end up interning or teaching abroad. So, hopefully whatever you go on to do kind of after the program, you'll find that the experience that you had and the skills that you gained, even if it's that you never want to do that work again, will be helpful to you and kind of what you decide to do next. So then kind of just to wrap up, I guess a good summary of, this whole presentation is to kind of talk a little bit about, students obviously can go to Washington, D.C. and get an internship on their own, but, why we think that doing it through this program can really be beneficial. And so, again, one thing that was noted is that you can earn academic credit on this program. So if you are doing internship just on your own, you likely won't be able to get the credit for that here at UW-Madison. But if you're going for the semester, you'll get 12 credits. For the summer, you'll get 3 credits, and those will count towards your academic plans here at UW-Madison. So that's something to note. Another thing is that cohort model. So it was great to hear kind of Sam and Cole talking about those times they spent with the other students on the program. Just the ability to make those connections, to live and study with other UW-Madison students who likely share a similar kind of passion to you, but come from a variety of backgrounds and majors and interests. You also have that connection to the mentors and the alumni relationship. So something that you might not be, might be able to establish if you're on your own in DC, but the program really helps you to make those connections and puts those individuals out in front of you. Really, networking is a huge piece of this program. Even if it sounds scary, I think a lot of students find that ultimately is very beneficial. So definitely something that can be helpful, that's unique to this program. Again, kind of the instructors that you'll hear from are people who maybe even be different from the instructors you have at UW-Madison, just because they are people who've been actively working in some professions in various fields, and so they bring in a lot of, I think, that experience and their connections to the courses. Housing is provided, so again, huge piece of the benefits of going through the program versus a loan. Housing in DC, I'm not going to say our housing is perfect. Housing in DC is probably older, or has its quirks no matter where you are, but you don't have to find it yourself. The cost is included in the program, and again, we try to keep that as affordable as we can for students. So definitely a huge benefit to going through our program. Scholarships are available, so I want to emphasize that again. Definitely looking for those scholarships and applying for those is a huge thing. And if you had questions about those, I'm happy to help. And then lastly, that health and safety support piece. So, hopefully you don't need it, but we are here both in our office and with our staff in DC if anything comes up. So just knowing that you kind of have those support networks there, I think is a huge benefit, and hopefully something that students have appreciated on the program. And so, obviously we encourage you, no matter what you do, to kind of seek out the opportunities that are available to visit or work in DC, but ideally you'll want to take advantage of some of the things that we have on this program. So with that, again, we have about 10 minutes or so. So, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat, or you can unmute and ask us. Definitely encourage you to also follow our Instagram account and go to our website for more information as well. I actually have a question for Sam and Cole that I might start with, if that's okay. So could you guys talk a little bit more about kind of maybe, like, you don't have to name names, but who your mentor was, and how that went, how that relationship with your mentor went?
Yeah, I guess I can. Yeah. So my mentor was a State Department. He worked for the State Department. He was a Foreign Service officer, currently stationed in DC. And I think we were paired together because I am definitely interested in like government jobs like that, and just like international stuff in general. And we met, I can't remember if it was 2 or 3 times, probably 3 times. And I don't think we had as deep of a connection as some mentors and some of my cohort mates, because some of them got along really well. But I think that over our conversations, he gave me some good career advice. And he also connected me to some other people who were able to talk to me about careers that I was interested in that I didn't know much about. So it was just a really nice, like, helpful resource for learning about different careers for me.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, so my mentor when I was there was Teresa Welch, I think her name was, and she was a journalist that she worked for international news publication and covered kind of like food insecurity issues. So she was really cool. I got paired with her because at the time I was kind of thinking more that I want to do something in journalism, and now I'm not as sure if I want to do something in journalism. So that's why we were paired together. But program obviously tries to get people paired with their interests. I really liked her. She was really, really nice, and was helpful in just kind of thinking about things I wanted to do and what my life would look like if I went down that route, which I don't think I'm going to anymore. But also, I would just mention that outside of that mentorship program, the instructors are really, really great. Like I met a lot with Sam Cornell outside of class time and just like networking meetings, talking about like career path kind of stuff, and he helped me like get jobs and things like that. So he was really awesome.
Great, thanks. Looks like there's a question in the chat. How soon should we send out our internship applications relative to our study away semester? That's a good question. I would say definitely it will depend a bit on where you're looking to intern. So, you know, some, like, I think the State Department tends to be super early. So that one, you may, like, if you're really interested in that, you should probably look before you're even applying to our office. You may need to be kind of applying for that. Others are going to be a little different. I think, you know, I guess, I think the congressional ones tend to seem to be a lot at once. You know, kind of, it seems like those are maybe more the middle of the road versus some might be a bit later. Again, I think my advice, and then I'll let maybe Sam and Cole share about what their sense of the timeline was, is that, you know, even if you aren't actively applying for internships at the time you're applying for the program, definitely looking at what's out there is good, so that you do have a sense for the timelines of things. They might not be open yet, but it might still show, you know, what that timeline typically is, so that you know, if you are kind of needing to apply right after you've been accepted into the program, that you're prepared for that and you're not kind of trying to scramble and get things together last minute. And I really appreciated both Cole and Sam mentioning, you know, being intentional with your applications. I think that's definitely a piece that we try to note, you know, of not just kind of reusing the same cover letters and things like that. So yeah, to give yourself that time to prepare, I would say doing some research ahead of time before even applying to the program is good. So yeah, Sam, Cole, do you guys have a sense for kind of what you would recommend or timelines for things?
I mean, I would just say apply early. That's the biggest thing. I mean, I know some of my friends from the cohort started, so I did it in the spring. So internship applications open in the fall for the spring. So internship applications are starting soon-ish for the spring, like early September probably. So my friends from the program who were most successful in getting the internships that they wanted started early, like very soon relative to now. And I think one of the reasons why, like I was talking about earlier, how I didn't get enough applications in was because I started too late. I started applying like way too late. So don't necessarily, like, you don't have to wait to like get accepted into Wisconsin and Washington. Even like as soon as you see stuff opening up, start getting some applications in, especially since it's hard to do applications once the semester really starts rolling in the fall. So like right now there's no school, so it's really nice to not have that and trying to do internships.
Yeah, I would totally echo everything Sam just said, because like once you get accepted into the program and you're like I don't think I actually started applying really until after I got accepted, and like a week later maybe I like didn't do stuff, and then I started applying to a bunch of things, and it was also just like I have to go live in a different part of the country in a couple months, so I had to like find subletters for my apartment and like all of that stuff on top of like the busiest time of the semester doing midterms and stuff is a lot. So yeah, I would recommend doing it like starting in September when classes are slower and things like that. I would do it as early as possible. And it's a hit and miss thing, because like I applied to like, I don't know how many, a lot of internships, and wasn't as intentional as I should have been. And then my girlfriend applied to maybe like 2 or 3 and got an internship within like 3 applications. So it's just like a weird, like, it's obviously not like a perfect science or anything. So just do it early, and I think that'll be best for you.
Yeah, and to echo kind of what Sam had said too, you know, again, you can apply to a program before apply to an internship while you're applying for the program. Definitely let us know if you are doing that, like in your internship, in your application or in your interview, just because it's helpful for us to know. But like we said, you don't need to have anything lined up, but we won't stop you from looking and starting those applications. So yeah, good advice there. Thanks, guys. Any other questions? All right. I'm not seeing any other questions. So with that, I just wanted to thank everyone for coming. Thank Cole and Sam again for joining us and sharing a little bit about their time on the program. If you have any further questions, feel free to contact me. My email address and information is on the program page for the website. We also do have a return student network there, so you might be able to find Cole and Sam's information if they're, willing to share, and then also other return students as well. And you can find students kind of will list their majors and things. So if you wanted to ask about that, that's a great resource. And yeah, so have a good rest of your, I guess it's Wednesday, and then enjoy. Thanks.